Why the fuck do you attack DNC for Pied Piper strategy? Now you want literal Adolf Hitler 2.0 back on social media platforms? What the fuck is wrong with you? I don't think you understand. Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump doesn't fucking matter. They're both going to do, fascist fucking policies. There is no like massaging this at that point. It's not like Donald Trump's going to be like better at fucking doing fascism. They're both going to do that regardless. So if Donald Trump is on Twitter and Donald Trump is able to captivate a large audience again, he has more of a shot to fucking undermine the Republican Party. I'm looking to have the Republican Party implode from within because national Republicans, the National Republican Political Party, and the machine has time and time again said Trump is bad, Trump is bad, Trump is bad, Trump is bad, and they want him out.
Any moment now, President Biden is expected to deliver remarks following that high-stakes meeting he just completed with China's President Xi Jinping. It's their first face-to-face since Joe Biden took office. Joining us right now is the host of Piers Morgan Uncensored on Fox Nation, Piers Morgan. Piers, good afternoon to you over in England.
Good afternoon and good morning to you over in New York City.
Like Pied Piper is putting fucking governors that otherwise would be more moderate in fucking blue states or red states or more moderate Republicans who are nowhere near as prominent and trying to do the exact same thing as one another into positions of power and normalizing their fucking behavior. There is fundamentally no difference between Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis because Ron DeSantis is Donald Trump 2.0, just a shittier version. Do you not get that? Like the difference between whatever the fucking Republican candidate in Maryland was going to be versus the other guy is significant. It's like the difference between fucking Mitt Romney and Donald Trump. Do you get it? The difference between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump is marginal or not that significant. This is a inherent problem within the Republican Party, and it's going to keep happening. Like Ron DeSantis, the funniest part about this national conversation about the Republican Party and like where they're going to go or whatever has been this weird notion that they all have that like sending undocumented migrants to Martha's Vineyard with taxpayer funds and pushing the don't say gay and then also like literally hamming up the libs of TikTok murdered trans brigade is somehow more moderate than Donald Trump. You're out of your fucking mind if you think that there is functionally any difference in the culture war shit between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. The only difference is Donald Trump has a better way to communicate the grievances that he personally has and use that as a way to get people to go out and fight his battles as though they are about a singular person when it's not. It's never about Graydon Carter undermining him. It's never about censorship against Donald Trump. When he talks about censorship and the media is censoring me, woke news, he's talking to the fucking 75-year-old freaks who think they're being censored by the media because their grandchildren don't fucking text them, because they can't communicate with their grandchildren on Facebook anymore, because they blocked them. Okay? When he says, liberal media, Graydon Carter is a sissy, like the guy in West Virginia doesn't give a fuck about Graydon Carter, but he's angry about liberal elites that are, in his eyes, controlling the way that they see everything and have a disdain for them. How many times have I described this?
Thank you very much. We're getting the readout from the White House of a little bit about what they talked about. It says the United States is going to continue to compete with China. We are opposed to any sort of nuclear action in Ukraine. We don't like what's going on with North Korea, and we will work together when it comes to global food security, healthcare, and climate change. Does that surprise you?
Well, look, it all sounds good, doesn't it? But the reality is that China's President Xi now has pretty unlimited power, probably for the rest of his life. And we know that he has extremely ambitious plans to make China the #1 superpower, both economically and militarily. So I wouldn't trust him, frankly, as far as I could throw him. You know, and there's a bit of a precedent here, Steve, where Joe Biden met Vladimir Putin last summer, you may remember, and sized him up. He then watched Joe Biden do that catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Right.
I think he sensed weakness. I think he sensed a lack of stomach for the fight. And the rest is history. He invaded Ukraine a few months later. I think it's incredibly important that President Biden stands up to President Xi properly, and it's not just talk, because otherwise you'll see China move into Taiwan and all hell will break loose.
Sure. Remember,
I love when the mainstream right-wing position is identical in many ways to the mainstream left-wing position. Okay? Yes, this is not a bit. It's fucking hilarious. I think this is funny as fuck, okay? I know. I will look at that in a little bit. We're looking at other funny shit.
when President Biden said to President Putin, don't you go invading Ukraine. And he did. And what did we do?
Yeah.
So what's to stop him? Because when you think about it, Joe Biden can say, look, Mr. Xi, you guys are currency manipulators. You've got global human rights violations. You're stealing our international property, intellectual property, that is. But we've got no leverage. They make all our stuff over there.
Right. I'm afraid America, like many countries in the West, has become far too reliant on China economically, and they pretty much have us all over a barrel.
Yeah.
And that's been a long, long period of several decades
Yeah, how'd that happen?
where we've allowed them to get ever more powerful economically and indeed militarily. To be fair to Donald Trump, he was sounding the alarm about this 30 years ago, saying, why are we allowing China to dominate us economically like this? And
Bro,
now
he has everything that he makes also in China. He is literally the capital owner that has outsourced manufacturing to China. Why does nobody recognize this? They always make it seem like capital owners that have no interest in preserving the American economic output, American manufacturing, that take actions to destroy American manufacturing because they want to fucking feed their bottom line, because they want marginally better rates for fucking labor, have absolutely eviscerated and destroyed American manufacturing. But we make it seem like it's the politicians that did that. It's like, bro, who went there, dog? Like, the politicians were working for who? Who were they working for when they allowed that to happen?
we are where we are. So I think it's going to be very difficult to navigate this, particularly with a president who now feels pretty well omnipotent and untouchable and is flexing his muscles and wants to establish China as the #1 superpower. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I just think that at some stage, rather like the European reliance, over-reliance on Russian energy, at some stage America is going to have to become less reliant on commerce and economic matters with China. It's just going to have to become more self-reliant and less reliant on China.
Good luck.
Otherwise, if China has an economic hold of the United States, it's going to be able to use that to flex its muscle globally.
Sure. We should hear from Joe Biden in a couple of minutes. In the meantime, let's work in a plug for your program, Piers Morgan Uncensored on Fox Nation. You talked to perhaps one of the greatest soccer players, football players to you, in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo, who is feeling betrayed. And watch this clip, and then you'll explain it.
Pulls you out. Yes, not only the coach, but the other 2 or 3 guys there around the club.
At the senior executive level.
Yes, that I felt betrayed.
And you think they're trying to get rid of you?
Honestly, I shouldn't say that. I don't know, but listen, I don't care. I'm always, people should listen the truth. Yes, I feel betrayed, and I felt that some people that don't want me here, not only this year, but last year too.
It sounds like he's
Ronaldo.
talking about the bosses at Manchester United.
Yeah, it's a bombshell interview, the most explosive certainly Cristiano's ever done. And for American viewers who may not be altogether familiar with him, you know, he is the Tom Brady of soccer,
Right.
as you call it, football as I like to call it. He's the most followed human being on Instagram, has nearly 500 million followers. So when he speaks, the world listens. It has caused huge ructions over here and around the world, particularly with the World Cup, of course, starting next week. My guess is that Ronaldo is probably gearing up to leave Manchester United, which will be huge.
So you can watch Piers Morgan Uncensored at Fox.
That motherfucker, ever since I found out he's a fan of Jordan Peterson, I'm done.
Now to our ABC.
LeBron would never do that, okay? Speed is the GOAT. LeBron is the GOAT. Argentina!
News exclusive. Former Vice President Mike Pence sat down with World News Tonight anchor David Muir for his first network television interview since the January 6th insurrection. He has a new book coming out. It's called So Help Me God.
What a goober. Sonsia!
Pence directly criticized Donald Trump, calling his actions on January 6th reckless, saying his words endangered him, his family, and everyone at the Capitol.
Members were barricaded inside the House chamber.
LeBron be like, I'm always saying that. Clean up your room, you know? That's my favorite saying. That's my favorite saying. I'm always saying that. 12 rules is all you need for life. That's what, even before I read the book, which I definitely read, I was always saying that.
And in the middle of it all, you can see that the president has tweeted. 2:24 p.m., the president tweets, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done.
How dramatic.
It angered me. But I turned to my daughter, who was standing nearby, and I said, it doesn't take courage to break the law. It takes courage to uphold the law. I mean, the president's words were reckless. It was clear he decided to be part of the problem.
Over the course of several hours, you spoke with the acting defense secretary, you spoke with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley.
I did.
You spoke with the acting Attorney General, Jeff Rosen, with the Chief of Capitol Police. Where was the president in all this?
David, I was at the Capitol. I wasn't at the White House.
And when you learned later that he was watching all this unfold on TV?
I can't account for what the president was doing that day. I was at a loading dock in the Capitol where a riot was taking place.
But why wasn't he making these calls?
That'd be a good question for him.
We're going to bring in our chief Washington correspondent.
Why'd you write a book about it then?
Jonathan Karl. And John, what is the significance of what Pence is saying now?
Well, Robin, it is so striking to hear Pence, who was the most loyal member of that administration, stood with Trump through all those controversies, come out and call him reckless and say that he put his family and all those people in the Capitol at danger. But when you consider what happened and the fact that Trump later told me just weeks after he left the White House.
Number one fake friend, Cloud Demon. I mean, honestly, look, Mike Pence is lame as fuck, but I will be honest here. And I'll tell you, like, he has every right to shit on Trump. Dude, people were literally like, we're going to execute you. And he had to just, like, sit through that. As Donald Trump's most loyal fans were like, we're going to fucking kill you, dog. You suck. I think you can have some resentment. It's just like he's such a political animal that it doesn't matter. Like, he's just the Koch brother guy, you know? He's not even complaining enough, in my opinion.
Justifying the actions of those who were saying hang Mike Pence. I think the obvious question Pence is going to face now is what took so long?
Yeah, a lot of people online, after seeing him sit down with David in that one bite, were saying that very same thing, John. Why did it take so long? But amid all of this, Donald Trump set, of course, to make that big announcement tomorrow.
Yeah, the timing is incredible. You have this Pence interview, which obviously had been set in place, timed to his book a long time.
He doesn't give a fuck about that. What? No one other than people in media care about Mike Pence's book.
Time ago, but Trump is intending to announce he's running for president.
Are you fucking stupid? It's directly 1 week after the midterms. Are you stupid? Bro, how dare you? I mean, that's just journalistic malpractice at that point. Oh, the timing is real suspicious. Everybody was waiting. The streets were waiting for this drop. Like, no one was waiting for this drop. And Donald Trump did not factor Mike Pence's lame-ass book. He's just doing it because he wanted to wait for the midterm results to come out so he could either gloat or rip into the fucking Republican Party more and somehow lay the blame on the Republican Party. He's going to say, they didn't want Trump to go out. Believe me, folks. I told them I'll go out. I'll campaign. They said, Trump, pick these candidates. You know? That's what he's going to say. Obama. He's going to say that too.
President tomorrow. Again, we'll believe it when we actually see him say it, but a third run for president, and his people say all systems go that he will do it tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, John, thank you so much. David Muir's exclusive interview airs tonight on World News Tonight and across ABC News, and then the full primetime special, David Muir, one-on-one with Mike Pence, airs.
Oh, man, so sick.
We begin with a landmark meeting between two of the world's most powerful leaders, President Joe Biden and China's President Xi Jinping. They spoke for about 3 hours in Indonesia this morning ahead of the upcoming G20.
Yo, he said Xi Jinping. That's right, baby. He's right, though. The GOAT. Top G. He said more like Xi Jinping. Am I right?
G20 summit. U.S. officials say the conversation ranged from Taiwan's future to Russia's war in Ukraine, and the leaders agreed to work together. Nancy Cordes is in Bali for us, traveling with the president. It's where we find her. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. The meeting lasted for more than 3 hours. Afterwards, President Biden told us he's not looking for conflict, and he believes a Cold War can be avoided, despite years of warnings and threats.
I just met in person with Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China. He was clear and I was clear that we'll defend American interests and values, promote universal human rights, and stand up for the international order and work in lockstep with our allies and partners. We're going to compete vigorously, but I'm not looking for conflict. I'm looking to manage this competition responsibly.
The leaders of the world's two largest economies sat at long tables facing each other. The two nations at odds over trade, technology, Chinese spying, human rights, and China's growing aggression towards Taiwan. In recent months, China has flown military planes near the self-governed island, firing missiles into the surrounding waters. When House Speaker Nancy Pelosi traveled
I was about to say, yeah, good thing that was unprompted.
To Taiwan this summer, the Chinese retaliated by cutting off communication with U.S. officials.
I think both sides.
Bro, look, you might not agree with what China wants to do in Taiwan, which, of course, is ironic because, like, your disagreement on the matter is completely irrelevant because the American government is always going to follow the one China policy as they have, despite these, like, attempts at agitation. The thing is, however, that, like, China literally is like, we have three, China says they have three fucking goals. Okay? And their three goals are, do not interfere with our Taiwan policy, which America will only agitate but never truly actually interfere with. Okay? And do not interfere with our operations in the region, which America will not interfere with, but will, again, do whatever the fuck it can. to make it seem like they're actually interfering and like just do a little bit of saber rattling. I forget what the third one is, but it's like all of them still are about a country that's like maybe trying to do irredentist shit, right? Or a country that is absolutely trying to, a country that is, you know, whether you agree with it or not, like I said, trying to maintain its influence over another country, whether you think it's a part of the original country, whether you think all of China belongs, all of mainland China belongs to Taiwan, doesn't fucking matter, okay? What doesn't change in this circumstance is America. What the fuck is America doing? Why is America involved? Like all of these conversations revolve around like people being like, America, please don't interfere in this shit.
Sides realize that if we keep going down the path that we're headed on, that will be conflict.
China expert Scott Kennedy says Russia's invasion of Ukraine is also on the agenda. The Chinese initially stood by Russia, but that was before Ukraine began taking back territory.
They know where.
Also chip manufacturing. And also they're going to talk about North Korean bombs. They're going to tell China to tell North Korea to fucking chill out. They're going to talk about Russia. They're going to try to see if like China will continue supporting or at least like not criticizing Russia, not joining the rest of the world, not rest of the world, rest of the developed nations on the planet, and Western nations on like criticizing, being critical to Russia. And that's it. That's what they're going to fucking ask them.
Where their economic bread is buttered with the West, not with Russia.
Today, President Xi argued they can both do better.
The world expects that China and the United States will properly handle the relationship.
Russia is also a member of the G20, but President Biden will not have an opportunity to confront Russian President Vladimir Putin at this summit in Bali. And that's because Putin has decided not to attend in the face of his faltering.
Wait, what? You should delete TikTok, Hasan. Fuck no. Bro, the CCP compromised you. You should delete TikTok, Hasan.
Invasion of Ukraine. Tony?
Faltering is a word for
violence and voter intimidation. There was an emphatic statement.
And we're now listening to President Biden speaking after his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
Wait, what? It's actually wild to see Xi Jinping make a statement like that. Gives me a little hope. Dude, what? If you've ever listened to fucking Chinese policy on anything, they're the fucking kings of like, let's not rock the boat, please. Bro, they're literally, they're always saying that shit. That's not new. That's not new at all. Why would they? Why would they? They're fucking crushing right now. Why the fuck would they try to rock the boat? They're literally destroying. Their economy's doing all right despite the instabilities in the housing market and whatnot. Like, China is fucking chilling. They're going through their own version of the 80s and 90s. Like they now have like a middle class that is buying shit like crazy. Also, despite the manpower that the Chinese military has, and you know, I'm afraid I might lose some social credit for saying this, their military is kind of dog, okay? Like they're not. They have a lot of manpower, but it's not great. Take that back right now. I mean, dude, at a certain point, you got to realize like a country that has never stopped being in war, like the United States of America, is probably still going to have like a better troop mobilization. And even then, you still lose the fucking guerrilla warfare, right? But I guess like state by state conflict, I don't think state by state conflict will ever happen in the way that it did during World War II. But you know, not a lot. There. If you were to do something similar, you know, boots on the ground military warfare, like they're not exactly super good about that.
I've traveled this week, and it's been clear just how closely the world and our allies and our competitors as well have been following our elections at home. Excuse me, I have a little cold. And what these elections showed is that there's a deep and unwavering commitment in America to preserving and protecting and defending democracy. Now, let me speak briefly about our agenda over the past few days in Egypt and in Cambodia and here in Indonesia. In this moment of great global challenges, from global inflation to the climate crisis to Russia's brutal war against Ukraine, we're bringing together the broadest possible coalition of partners to deliver results. At COP27 in Egypt, I made it clear that thanks to the bold agenda of our administration, we pursue from day one to tackle the climate crisis and advance energy and security at home and around the world. The United States will meet our emissions targets under the Paris Agreement. And we're going to keep working with our partners to support the most vulnerable countries in building resilience to climate impacts and to align global ambition with the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal while supercharging our clean energy transition. At the U.S.
A man in my hometown was arrested on espionage charges for the CCP. Really weird to see it. It was probably some Huawei shit, right? Isn't that who they like? That was the last batch of people that they arrested. The Department of, was it the Homeland Security Department? No, it wasn't even. DOJ came out and were like, yo, we arrested a bunch of CCP agents, and it was like literally corporate espionage for Huawei. Even the people in Quebec is the same.
ASEAN Summit. In the East Asia Summit, I laid out a commitment to working with our partners in the Indo-Pacific to ensure a future that's vital to this region, that's free and open and prosperous as well as secure.
Oh, God, what's he looking at?
I met with our allies from Australia, Japan, and the Republic of Korea, underscoring our commitment and deepening our engagement with our closest partners and strengthening cooperation among our allies to meet shared threats to our own security and to their security, including the DPRK. And let me meet, I just met in person with Xi Jinping of the People's Republic of China. We had, excuse me, we had an open and candid conversation about our intentions and our priorities. It was clear, he was clear and I was clear.
I spat on him. I coughed on him, Jack. They're scared of COVID out there.
And stand up for the international order and work in lockstep with our allies and partners. We're going to compete vigorously, but I'm not looking for conflict. I'm looking to manage this competition responsibly. And I want to make sure that every country abides by the international rules of the road. And we discussed that. The One China policy, our One China policy has not changed. Has not changed. We oppose unilateral change in the status quo by either side, and we're committed to maintaining the peace and stability in the Taiwan Straits. It was also clear that China and the United States should be able to work together where we can to solve global challenges that require every nation to do its part. We discussed Russia's aggression against Ukraine, reaffirmed our shared belief in the threat or the use of nuclear weapons is totally unacceptable, and I asked that Secretary Blinken travel to China to follow up on our discussions and continue keeping the lines of communication open between our two countries. Looking ahead at the G20 meetings tomorrow, we're going to be taking on the very issues that matter to the people's lives, not only here, but also our allies and our partners. That means tackling the suffering that Russian aggression has unleashed, not just in Ukraine people, but the people around the world, particularly food insecurity, and strengthening the fundamentals of our global economy for everyone. Support for debt relief, reforms for multilateral development banks, investments to bolster global health security, and to make sure the world is better prepared for the next pandemic. The G20 has been an important forum for the world's largest economies to work together for the good of people everywhere. And I'm looking forward to our meetings tomorrow. Now let me close with this. On my first trip overseas last year, I said that America was back. back at home, back at the table, and back to leading the world. In the year and a half that's followed, we've shown
Damn,
exactly
bro, you
what
can't
that
say that
means.
right in front of China. They're going to hear.
America's keeping its commitments. America's investing in our strength at home. America's working alongside our allies and partners to deliver real, meaningful progress around the world. And at this critical moment, no nation is better positioned to help build the future we want than the United States of America. Now, I'm happy to take questions, and I'm told there are going to be 4 questioners, but I'm not going to do 10 questions from each questioner. All right? Let's just make that clear at the outset here. And Ken Thomas, Wall Street Journal.
You said at the outset of this meeting that you did not want competition to turn into conflict. Based on this meeting,
Get ready for some of the bloodthirstiest fucking questions that an 800-year-old man is going to have a very hard time fumbling over and trying to answer, okay? They're going to be like, Mr. President, why don't you want to nuke Beijing? Journalists in this moment behave like the unhinged chatters that like to play puppet master. You know what I mean? You know how like unhinged chatters love playing puppet master? They're like, Hasan, this person said this about you. Care to respond? And then they can like clip it and ship it. That's what journalism is half the time. A lot of you parasitic, parasocial freaks in the chat would make great vulturous journalists.
today, do you believe a new Cold War with China can be avoided? And specifically on the issue of Taiwan, you spoke about intentions. Do you believe China is intending to invade Taiwan at some point? And what warnings did you issue to President Xi if he were to take such action?
Well, to answer the first part of your question, I absolutely believe there's need not be a new Cold War. I've met many times with Xi Jinping, and we were candid and clear with one another across the board. And I do not think there's any imminent attempt on the part of China to invade Taiwan. And I made it clear that our policy on Taiwan has not changed at all. It's the same exact position we've had. I made it clear that we want to see cross.
Okay, now that they hit that, now they're going to be like, well, okay, but what if China keeps escalating military conflict against Taiwan? Watch.
Trade issues peacefully resolved, and so it never has to come to that. And I'm convinced that he understood exactly what I was saying. I understood what he was saying. And look, I think the United States is better prepared than any country in the world, economically and politically, to deal with the changing circumstances around the world. And I think that I think Xi Jinping is. We agreed that we would set up a set of circumstances where, on issues that we had to further resolve details, we agreed that we would have our chief of staff, the appropriate cabinet members and others sit and meet with one another to discuss the details of every issue that was raised, and we raised a lot of issues. Sung Kim, Associated Press.
Mr. President, you met with President Xi, and you met with him face-to-face after he had unquestionably consolidated his power at home. So now that you've met with him face-to-face, how do you assess his sort of posture towards the United States now? And did you find him personally to be more confrontational or more conciliatory and willing to compromise?
Neither and yes. Yes, I didn't find him more.
Loki is not as bad as I thought it was going to be. They're being relatively nice and even-handed with the questioning.
More confrontational and more conciliatory. I found him the way he's always been, direct and straightforward. And do I think he's willing to compromise on various issues? Yes. I think he understands that. Look, I think, how can I say this tactfully? I think I think the election held in the United States, which still leaves a little bit uncertain, has sent a very strong message around the world that the United States is ready to play. The United States is the Republicans who survived, along with the Democrats, are of the view that we're going to stay fully engaged in the world and that we, in fact, know what we're about. And so I don't.
Bro, this is elder abuse. Like, if you think the PP should be charged for elder abuse for having gay sex with Paul Pelosi, I'm sorry. Everyone in the fucking Democratic Party should be charged with elder abuse. That's crazy. This man, like, he hasn't slept. He's on God knows how many fucking hours. He's done. He's burnt. There's nothing behind those eyes, baby. I'm telling you right now, nothing.
Get any sense that there's a more or less confrontation. We were very blunt with one another about places where we disagreed or where we were uncertain of each other's position, and we agreed we'd set up, and we did, mechanisms whereby we would meet in detail with the key people in each of our administrations to discuss how we could resolve them, or how, if they weren't resolved, on what basis were they not resolved. Sebastian Smith, the AFP.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It's extremely close. Excuse me, I don't usually talk that loud. Does the retaking of Hasan in Ukraine signal a turning point in the war, in your opinion? That the Ukrainians could realistically pursue their ultimate goal of expelling the Russians completely, including retaking Crimea? If so, does the US intend to support and facilitate that goal, as you've been doing so far with their other goals? Or would you perhaps see Hasan as a different kind of inflection point?
Classic.
Basically a good time to start negotiating now that they've got some more strength than they had a few weeks ago.
First of all, it was a significant victory for Ukraine. Significant victory. And I can do nothing but applaud the courage, determination, and capacity of the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian military. I mean, they have really been amazing. And I think it's hard to tell at this point exactly what it means in terms of, but I've been very clear that we're going to continue to provide the capability for the Ukrainian people to defend themselves, and we are not going to engage in any negotiation. There's nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. It's a decision Ukraine has to make. I think you're going to see things slow down a bit because of the winter months and the inability to move as easily around the country. But I think it remains to be seen exactly what the outcome will be, except that I'm confident that Russia will not occupy or defend Ukraine as they intended from the beginning. I can't have trouble reading this. Reuters, Netanya
Half of you motherfuckers love Monkey D. Luffy and say he's so fucking cute when he's eating all the time. You're like, oh my God, that's my favorite character. That's my favorite character in One Piece. Eating all the time. But when your favorite political commentator eats, you're like, no, you can't eat. You can't eat on stream. You can't do that. Like, what do you want me to fucking die, dude? What do you want me to do? Not eat? Not serve you the top of the hour ad break? And tell you that at the top of the hour there's a 6-second ad break, and if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free? Huh? Is that what you want? Or get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's the 1-minute ad break now.
President, quick question on North Korea, which appears poised to conduct a new nuclear test. I'm wondering if you can talk about your specific discussions with President Xi on that. To what extent do you think China has the ability to talk North Korea out of conducting such tests? And what are the repercussions for U.S.-Chinese relations if a test goes forward?
Well, first of all, it's difficult to say that I am certain that China can control North Korea, number one. Number two, I made it clear to President Xi Jinping that I thought they had an obligation to attempt to make it clear to North Korea that they should not engage in long-range nuclear tests. And I made it clear as well that if they did, they, meaning North Korea, that we would have to take certain actions that would be more defensive on our behalf, and it would not be directed against North Korea. It would not be directed against China, but it would be to send a clear message to North Korea. We are going to defend our allies as well as American soil and American capacity. And so, I do not think that it's difficult to determine whether or not China has the capacity. I'm confident China is not looking for North Korea to engage in further escalatory means, because I made it clear, and I made it clear from the very beginning and last year as well, that we will do what it needs to defend our capacity, to defend ourselves and our allies, South Korea as well as Japan, and that we'd be more up in the face of China, but it wouldn't be because of China. It'd be because of what was going on in North Korea. So, again, on a number of these issues.
The only person I recognize the Hongshu Mimimi arguments for is Joe Biden. Joe Biden as a person, unironically, is a perfect representation of Hongshu Mimimi. Like, when he goes to sleep at Air Force One, he's saying Hongshu and he's saying Mimimi. And there's like a big like snot bubble that like flies out of his nose and then goes back in, and he like keeps sucking the snot bubble, making it larger and larger. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of shit that he's doing. There's maybe like even a piece of paper that flies over, and then like he's just every time he honks and every time he honks, the paper comes closer to his face, and then he shoos, and then he pushes it away from his face in a comical capacity. A feather, not even a piece of paper. You're right. So, yeah, that is definitely happening.
We have put together teams where our National Security Advisor, Secretary of Defense, and others are going to be engaging with their counterparts from China to see, and we're not going to be able to work everything out. I'm not suggesting this is kumbaya, everybody go away with everything in agreement. But I do not believe there's need for concern of as one of you raised the legitimate question, a new Cold War. And I think that I'll conclude by saying it this way. I want to be clear, and be clear with all leaders, but particularly with Xi Jinping, that I mean what I say and I say what I mean. So there's no misunderstanding. That's the biggest concern I have is a misunderstanding about intentions or actions on each of our parts. So we went into, I look at my team, how long did that meeting last? 3.5 hours. So we covered an awful lot of territory. And I must say that he was as straightforward as he has been with me in the past. And I think that we understand one another, which is the most important thing that can be done. I guess all of you are going swimming from here. It's not far. But
Mr. President, what should Americans expect from Congress as it relates to abortion rights after the midterms?
I don't think they can expect much of anything other than we're going to maintain our positions. I'm not going to get into more questions. I shouldn't even answer your question. No, I don't think that. I don't think there's enough votes to codify unless something happens unusual in the House. I think we're going to get very close in the House, but I think it's going to be very close, but I don't think we're going to make it.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube.
Unlike the USSR, America and China need each other, but in my opinion, America needs China more than China needs America. Yeah. He's like, we won. Look alive, Jack. We won the election already. Last time I checked, when you win an election, you don't have to do anything.